Well, good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, September 24th, 2025, and this is the Patriot Pulse podcast and Two Guys Drinking Coffee. If you're following us on the Patriot Pulse, it's episode 24. If you're still following us on Two Guys Drinking Coffee, it's episode 228. And we've got a couple of special guests today coming on at different times. Our first guest is someone we've had on before, Steve Stern, and I'll tell you a little bit about him in a minute. And next one is Michelle Swinick. I always stumble on her name, but we thank everybody for jumping on with us today. Do a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, good morning, Fred. I didn't even say good morning to you yet here today.
Good morning.
You're on. Okay, Fred's rocking it old school with his laptop because his regular setup was giving him fits. But we got him on though, so that's cool. So, anyways, a little housekeeping. Remember, we're being shadow banned like crazy. Whatever platform you're watching us on, please click like and share. Click subscribe if you're on Rumble or if you're on X. But in any case, help us overcome the algorithms that are shadow banning us terribly and help us get out. So let me, without further ado, because we got a busy schedule today here, let me tell you a little bit about our first guest here. Our first guest, as I mentioned, was Steve Stern. Steve is a passionate conservative leader who has dedicated his life to upholding the principles of election integrity and civic responsibility. He has not only created a platform for expressing patriotic fervor, but has also become a prominent voice in the conservative movement. He has worked alongside many, many prominent leaders in the conservative community, such as President Trump, Steve Bannon, General Flynn, Mike Lindell, and many more. With a deep commitment to preserving the foundations of American democracy, Steve has emerged as a leading advocate for election integrity. He firmly believes that fair and secure elections are the bedrock of functioning government. Through his work, he has tirelessly championed efforts to ensure that the electoral process remains free from fraud and manipulation, safeguarding the fundamental right to vote for all citizens. In addition to his work on election integrity, Steve Stern is a strong advocate for the precinct strategy, which is what we're going to be talking about today. He believes that active participation at the grassroots level is the key to bringing about meaningful change in the political landscape. By mobilizing conservatives to engage at the precinct level, he seeks to strengthen the conservative movement's influence on local and national politics. As a dedicated patriot, Steve continues to inspire and mobilize conservatives across the nation, reinforcing the importance of active civic engagement and the preservation of America's democratic ideals. So, without further ado, I want to bring Steve onto the show here. Good morning, Steve. You're on with us.
Good morning. How you doing? Well, I'm glad you played the national anthem because that always gives me great pleasure in hearing it. And I got to tell you that we did this about a weekend before, and I just want to put this up. This is our Reagan Day event, and of course it started with the national anthem. Now, why is this important? Because this is the way that our executive, which is part of the precinct strategy, gets its funds for doing it. And you see Byron Donalds on there. He was our feature speaker. He gave a great speech. And I want to say one thing that he said, which I think was so important. And I worked on this for 3 months. We had 450 people against 310 last year. What he said, which resonated and I want to repeat it because I want to forget it, is that when you have two candidates running against each other in the Republican Party primary, and one of them loses, please, the person that loses, please support the person that wins, because many candidates lose and then they disappear, including all their people that volunteered for them. So in the background, you see President Trump and myself and a couple of things, and we're going to tie precinct strategy with election integrity. A lot of people don't understand how they're connected. So the first thing is next Tuesday, we are going to have the largest precinct strategy Zoom meeting. Hopefully everybody can see this. Everybody's invited to come on there. We're going to explain what precinct strategy is. I've worked 3 months on this. It's going to be Tuesday, 1 o'clock Eastern time, going to run all the way to 5 o'clock. Now, why is it going to run so long? We're going to have 50 people on there. Excuse me, one from each state. And you got on there, www.precinctstrategy.com. Now, what is precinctstrategy.com? So that is Dan Schultz and Steve Bannon. About 14 years ago, they started to talk about this. And Dan wrote a book. It's called right there, How to Get Involved. If you go to Amazon, you can get his book for $10. Or if you go to www.precinctstrategy.com, you can see how to get his book. And why is that important? It explains to you everything about what precinct strategy is. And how did I get involved and how did all this occur? Well, I've been in the Broward Republican Executive Committee for 25 years. I am now the vice chairman. And it's funny because I was wearing my shirt today for breakfast before I came on the show. And somebody came up to me and he said, you must be a Republican because Democrats don't wear patriotic shirts. Now, of course, I own the largest patriotic website in the world. My son, I gave him most of the business. So I whipped out my card, which you can see as the vice chair. Yeah. And I gave him a card and I said, hey, would you like to get involved? He said, I didn't even know there was an executive committee here. And I didn't know there were clubs here. I'm glad you gave it to me. So we got his information and hopefully we'll have a new member. So what is precinct strategy and what does it mean? And what does it mean to become a precinct committee man and a committee woman? And we'll hear one person from every state explain what's going on in each state. Now, if you think that's easy, getting people to come on for 5 minutes and say this, we had 5 states that it took me over 2 weeks to get somebody to come on. They would say they would come on, and including Maine, where it took me almost 4 weeks to get somebody to come on because we got the chair of the Republican Party, who you would think was a good person, and he probably is, but he said he was coming on, then he never even answered the phone call. We had people who we've had on before said they'd do it, never did it. But we finally got somebody because we know enough people. So precinct strategy means the Republican Party. Now, when I got on and I saw Dan Schultz on Steve Bannon about 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I called him up and I said, we have a lot of good experiences here. At that time, I was the membership director. And I said, we have some great things going on here. I saw you on Steve Bannon. And he said, wait a minute, give me your information. Let me get a hold of Steve or Cameron and let them know that what you're doing. So I gave him all that information. And about a week later, they said, hey, we're going to put you on. And I said, well, how do you get on? He said, well, you use Skype. I had no idea what Skype was. So I found out. And I got on. And they said, you're going to be on about 10:15. So I got on. They Skyped me. I got on 10:15. And funny thing happened. I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning and I started sketching little notes because, when you go on TV with 2 million people or a million or how many he was going to have on, because we never know how many he's going to have on. You're going to be a lot nervous if you don't know what the heck you're saying.
Right.
So I sketched all these notes at 3 o'clock in the morning and I never fell back asleep. Now I get on at 10:15 and I hear in the background Steve saying to everybody, and he addresses me and says, Steve, we're running a little late today. We had some special breaking news. You'll get on a little bit later, but stay on and listen to what's going on because you've never been on before. Well, now it's 10:30, 10:45. They text me and said, hey, we're running late. We've got other people to put on. And now it's 11 o'clock and it's 11:15. Well, I figured they weren't even going to put me on, but 11:46 I get on. I had lost 4 pounds of sweat because you're sitting there listening to everybody and you forgot what you're going to say. Anyway, I got on and, about 2 days later, they sent me a clip of the show and I listened and it was pretty good. And they texted me and said, hey, we're going to get you on again because we had a lot of people in the chat room and stuff said, hey, this is fantastic. You're a great salesman. Well, I said, well, look, I've been in business at that time 68 years. Or 67 years. And I said, well, hey, you must know a lot of stuff. So anyway, we get on numerous times and we're promoting precinct strategy. So the good news and the bad news. The good news is that we got a lot of people involved. The bad news is that when I started, there's 400,000 slots in the Republican Party and 200,000 people involved 5 years ago. Today, there's 400,000 slots and 200,000 people involved.
Yeah.
And we're going to explain to you why this is all happening. So if you become a precinct committee man or woman, it's very simple. Let's just take Broward County. In Broward County, we have executive committees. In other states, you have town committees, central committees. They have different ways to get on. And my recommendation is that everybody should be the same. We should have the same kind of committees every place. You have to get it voted in to the committee. So some states, you get on the ballot. Some states, you get appointed. And everybody has their way to do this. Now, what does it mean to become a committee man and committee woman? So in Broward County, we have, not only do we have executive committees, we have clubs. We have 12 clubs. I'm in charge of the clubs. So you have people that don't want to be involved 100%, because when you become a committee man or woman, you vote and you get people elected. And what is the main purpose? The main purpose is to get candidates elected. You sign up voters. You canvass neighborhoods. And let's stop here, because one of the most important things, and why it's important, you become a poll watcher or poll worker if you want. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to be that. Now, why is it important to become a poll watcher or poll worker? In the last election with President Trump, when we've had our election security calls, right after he won, I got texts from Susie Wiles, from many, many people, including General Flynn, including Wayne Root, including Steve Bannon. Many people texted me and said, hey, thank you for what you're doing. And I said, well, what did I do? The first thing they said was, you got us 40,000 poll watchers and poll workers. I was on 150 different podcasts like yours. And we said, go to protectthevote.com. Now, why is that important? Because right now we need poll watchers in Virginia, which is going to have an election, New Jersey, which is right near you, which is going to have a big election. And I've got people in Pennsylvania and in New York going over to New Jersey to try to help. In California, it's going to be an election. Go to cagop.org. But it's so important because I would ask for poll watchers and poll workers. Now, I'm part of the RNC, and I had a lot of trouble getting to the hierarchy of the RNC to be able to get involved with them and understand what they wanted the grassroots people to do. So President Trump did win, but we lost a lot of down ballot elections. And we're going to try to stop that in 25 and 26 by getting people involved and getting them involved in their local precinct. Because what happened was they spent so much time with President Trump that many people didn't get elected. Now, let's just take one area because we don't have a lot of time today. On our election security call, we had Joe Hoft, who talked about with me Orange County, California. In Orange County, California, we lost 3 people for Congress. And how did that happen? Very simple. During the election, on election day, we were up about 10,000 votes. A week later, we were up about 5,000 votes. A week after that, we were tied. A week after that, we were losing. Now, think about this. 3 weeks, they kept bringing in mail-in ballots.
Right.
And how the heck can you bring in mail-in ballots 3 weeks after an election? So you could see how they stole the election. Now, what's going to be different during our election security call, and our next election security call is going to be October 8th. And we're going to tell you how this coordinates with our precinct strategy. So we need people to step up, and we need them to work on election integrity in their precinct. So that's one of the things you do when you become a precinct committee man and committee woman. So on October 8th, we're going to have Cleta Mitchell on. She has EIN. Andy Mangione, he's from AMAC. Gary Myers, who does big information on everything that's going on with the election. Then we try to bring on a podcaster like yourself. Each time we have it, and we're going to have Joe DeBox. Joe DeBox is not too far from you, is in New York. Has 8 different podcasts on his network, and he's helping us. And every time we have every month, and people ask, well, how do you get 7 million people on your podcast, on your election security call? And the election security call will be October 8th at 2:00 Eastern time. We always have it at 2:00 Eastern time and lasts to 4:30. And how do we get all these people on? Well, about a year ago, we've been doing this for 2.5 years. And about a year ago, I was on Steve Bannon in the morning. And normally I bring up this on my flag shirt and my email. And anybody who wants to get on, go to stern1054gmail.com. We'll send you a link to get on to any of our programs, or go to Stern American Rumble. So I got on Steve that morning, and instead of holding up the signs, I asked Cameron to put my email on the bottom of the screen. Well, we got 1,000 people sign up. And then normally Steve gives me 4 or 5 minutes. He gave me about 12 that day. And he said to me one important thing that changed everything on the election security thing. He said, Steve, you're one of the hardest working guys I know. And he said, we're going to do you a favor. We're going to put your election security call on Getter and on the War Room. That got 60,000 people on. So as an 80, then I think I was 80, 81, 82. I said, as an 82-year-old guy, you got to learn something every day. And what I learned was, why didn't I think of getting this live? We had it live, but we only had it on Zoom. So now we have 11 computers, and we have all these people that we started to get as podcasters, over 200 podcasters. So not everybody streams it every time, but we get 7 million people on it because we have OBBM Network, we have Lindell TV, we have Patriot TV. We got many networks that are putting this on. And by doing that, Cloud Hub, X, just every way you can put it on. And Rumble puts it on the front page with our Stern American. If you go to Stern American Rumble, you'll see our last election security call. My thing started building up until we got 40,000 people on. Now we started with 100 and we got 40,000. So thank you, Rumble, because they've helped us. Without being on the front page, we do not get 40,000 people. So we always talk about our different people, and Joe DeBox will be on there as one of our podcasters. Then we're going to have Robert Epstein on. Robert Epstein talks about how his company stopped Google from saying things that they shouldn't be saying, because on these elections, Google will, be all the way to the left. And he worked very hard on stopping Google from swaying elections. Then we'll have Brian Swenson on. He's with the RNC. It took me a long time to get RNC to participate. Now, about 4 months ago, we started changing, and we start to get one state on as the feature state for that time. So this time we'll have Virginia. We've done Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin. And why is that important? Because when you get the state on, we try to bring on the head of the Republican Party. Hopefully they go down the line and tell every one of their chairmen to put this on. So as we get to each state, we get more and more people on our network. We get more and more emails on, and they're able to do that. Now back here, real quick, we'll tell you what happened here. So President Trump endorsed precinct strategy. And today I'm going to be on Mike Lindell at 2:45 Eastern time. Mike also endorsed precinct strategy, and he's going to help us today to go over our precinct strategy and start to promote it. And hopefully we'll get on Steve today or tomorrow or Monday and promote it, because Steve, we're trying to get him on our precinct strategy next week, because he's one of the inventors of precinct strategy. Also, during this past week, we sent out a note through one of my people to Susie Wiles asking President Trump to come on. Don't know if he'll come on, but at least we're trying. I've had 2 or 3 people in the White House try to do that, let everybody know that I've been invited to the White House on October the 16th, not by President Trump, but by one of the people in there, to view it and meet some of the people. Because what happens is, in the White House, a lot of our grassroots people are being blocked. And we are working to try to get Tina Peters out of jail. And I don't want to forget. And I want to announce today that supposedly I was sitting on Monday having coffee, and I got a call from prison from Tina Peters. And she said, today there's going to be something important in my particular case. So I'm hoping it comes out positive. And I think that's very important. We're also asking everybody to call the governor of Colorado and ask for a pardon for Tina Peters. 303-866-2471. I'm going to hold that up so you can see that. Take a picture of it. Why is that important? Many people don't know who Tina Peters is. And Tina Peters is an important person in this fight. In Colorado, which is all the way to the left and maybe off the chart, I think it's even worse than California. She was in the elections department, and she saw there was fraud, and she tried to save the ballots and everything. And they told her to destroy the ballots. She wouldn't do that. So, and a couple other things, she wouldn't listen to people because she saw what was going on.
Right.
So she got arrested and put in jail for 9 years. And she's been there for a year. She's 70 years old on 9/11. And every time I have an election security thing or anything I have, I always bring her name up because many people don't know who she is. And hopefully today something happens. So back here with President Trump, when I saw him 2 days before the 2020 election, that's how we got involved in the election integrity. To make it simple, I went up there because I asked, and I got on through the knocking on the doors because on one of the sides here, I was with President Trump. And when I get to take the picture, I asked him if he knew what precinct strategy was. He said he did not. And he said, we're going into a conference with 25 people. You'll be in there. And he said, talk to me about that. You got about 4 minutes. So I talked about it. And he said, Steve, give your card to all my associates here. There were 3 people. And I want you to come up to the Mar-a-Lago and visit with me. Well, it took me a long time to get up there because, just because the assistants he says that to them, they don't always follow through. But I'm a follow through guy, knocked on a lot of doors, got to his secretary, and they invited me up there. And 2 weeks before this picture, I was supposed to go up there. They canceled it because he had to go to New York. So I figured I wouldn't get up there. But when I got up there, that was a day that we were having an event actually for President Trump. So it worked out very good. I was there at 4:00. And I got to see him. And at 6:00, we're having an event where we were presenting him an award for everything he did for Israel. So while I was up there talking to him, this was 2 days before the election, he actually endorsed 2 of my candidates, which was unbelievable because who am I? I'm just a guy in the street. And, I asked him if he would do it. He checked with his pollsters, said they were going to lose. One was in Vermont, one was in New Hampshire. He said, Steve, do you think I should endorse them? I said, look, they're great candidates. And he did endorse them. And then he said to me, Steve, I know you do a precinct strategy Zoom. He said, why don't you do an election security call? Because he asked me what I thought about the 2024 election. And I said, well, it's going to be the same as the 2020 election. There's going to be a lot of cheating going on. And he said, you're 100% right. So that's how we got to start this. It took about 5 weeks.
Steve, let me jump in here for a minute.
Sure.
Would you say then he was introduced to precinct strategy back then, and I know myself and Fred, and there's other people in this area that were all part of that Trump Force 47 movement that really, knocked on millions of doors nationally. Was that the impetus for that Trump Force 47? Do you know?
No, I don't think that was that. I think what we asked him was if he could talk about getting people involved during his rallies, and that's what he did. Now that Trump 47 was going to be there before the precinct strategy because they're always going to have people going out there knocking on doors. But the thing that really changed the election was Charlie Kirk getting the young people involved, and that's one of the things. I work with Tyler Boyer, his right-hand man, and one of the problems is, which I know we only have about 5 minutes, is that they promised us 8,000 committee men and committee women. What they didn't understand was that young people are not going to become committee men and committee women until they get up in the echelons, because while they're going to school, they don't have time for this. And they didn't understand that. Now, the only people who are going to join are passionate people like myself, and maybe 1 in 200,000 are going to do that. So when you're in college, you got to study. You got to, worry about going out. You got to worry about a family. You got to worry about getting married. You got to worry about getting a job. So you're not going to become a committee woman or more than likely. So they didn't understand that. And this is one of the things. Look, if I'm 84, if we don't get the young people involved, and I can tell you we have YRs, which are young Republicans. Young Republicans are up to 40 years old. So I see the age group of the young Republicans, and they're between 28 and 40. So it means that when somebody gets out of school, they get a job, and you got to work, to build yourself up. So this is a problem in getting younger people involved. And then when younger people get involved, they're very aggressive and they want to become the chairman and the vice chairman and all this stuff. And they got to learn what the story is first. So we try to teach them. And many areas in the precinct committee people all around the country, there are establishing people. And they do not want to get these young people involved because they're afraid they're going to take their job. And, this is a problem. And you're in Pennsylvania, which is the worst state for knocking people out of the, Republican Party. I get calls all the time, for this, and we fully understand. So what happens is in the Republican Party, you have the rhinos, you got the established people, and you've got the MAGA. So we're fighting each other. And this is what's happened in Congress. You could see this. 4 people voted, against one of the left-leaning people who talked about Charlie. Can you imagine that 4 Republicans would vote against it and not to censure her or whatever they were going to do? It's ridiculous. So we have a lot of Democrats that switch parties, become Republicans because they run in a Republican area, but they really vote with the Democrats. So we have to be
Exactly.
So there's so many things going on. I could spend 2 hours here with you, but we have limited time. So I want to give you a chance to ask a couple of questions. But before we do that, I want to talk about 2 or 3 things. Theflagshirt.com. We want everybody to go there, www.theflagshirt.com, because when we do our programs, I do not ask people for funds. We do everything, and it costs us money to run these programs. And we just ask people to go get a flag shirt, which is great for you. Anybody that wants to get a hold of me, sstern1054gmail.com. I will answer you. Call me at 954-318-6902. Get involved. And it's very important. So we have a few minutes left. If you have a couple of questions, go ahead. I'm glad to answer.
Well,
I poll watched the last 4 elections.
Yeah.
I poll watched the last 4 elections, and you could just see the difference between the primaries and the regular elections. You get like half the people show up during the primaries, and then it's just ridiculous.
Well, I got to tell you that the reason why President Trump won was a couple of things. In the last election, 2020, we had 100,000 poll watchers and poll workers. In 2024, we had 220,000. That made a big difference. So, and also the Republicans with Laura Trump and with the chairman would do their had their lawyers do the suing prior to the election rather than after the election. So in the prior elections, we would sue after the elections, which made no sense because we'd never get it. Just to give you one example, in Milwaukee, when they brought in all those ballots, in the middle of the night, they sued him and they couldn't use them. So they had 6,000 lawyers. You know what I'm saying? So it made a big difference because everything you do helps win the election. So we have a few minutes left. Like I said, if you want to shoot me a couple of questions, because I work very closely with Michelle Swinick. She started the Precinct Strategy Zoom with me. So she's a hero, and, I've worked very closely with her. So let me give you the 2 dates. Next Tuesday, 1:00 Eastern time. Sign up to get on Precinct Strategy. Find out in your state what's going on. You're in Pennsylvania, so we'll have, not going to tell you who's going to be on, but we'll have a great person on from every state. And our election security call will be October 8th. And these things take huge amounts of time. I mean, I'm working 12 hours a day to put these things on. I worked on 3 different events at one time. When people, a lot of people ask me, well, why, how do you do this? Where do you get all this energy? Well, God gives you certain stuff, and thank God He gave me all this energy to do this, the passion, because I started in business when I was 12 years old. If you don't have the passion, then you can't do it. So you can't teach somebody passion. You got to be passionate about it. You got to get up one morning and say, hey, I want to help this country. And when you play the Star Spangled Banner, that is one of the most important things. You're the only podcast that plays the Star Spangled Banner. Every podcast should start off with that because that's our country. So love our country, get a flag shirt, get on our Zooms. We're glad to help you. Or if you can't get on it, go to Stern American Rumble. Everything is on there. Stern American. Join me on X and you will find everything out because people say, hey, how do we find all these things out? Simple. Go to Stern American on X. Everything is posted there all the time. You can look there every day and see what's going on. So it's very simple.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, before we let you go, because I got Michelle in the green room here, we restream just about every one of the ones that you do, which means they go out to our 5 platforms that we stream live, but then they stay as recordings on those, on the 2 Facebook pages, the Rumble, our Rumble page, our X page, all of those. So they all end up on there. So you can find them on our pages too. Steve, we are glad to work with you. We really are. I'm
going to give you one thing that's going to be the most important thing that I'm going to say today, which I forgot. So on our last Zoom, we had two important people. We had one of the lawyers on, and we had Peter Tickton, who's the lawyer, and we had Dr. Jerome Corsi. What they talked about, which is the most important thing I'm going to tell you today, President Trump in October is supposed to come out with an executive order, 1-day voting, which will be a holiday, only paper ballots, no machines. You got to have an ID. You have to re-register. There will be photographs of all the ballots. There will be hand counting. So no illegal aliens. Now, and we're going to tell you on the next election security code how he's going to be able to do that. That's the most important thing I can tell you, because everybody asks about how we can keep these elections safe. That's going to be the safest way.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting to hear. I'm looking forward to hearing that. So, Steve, I want to thank you for coming on today and sharing all this important information. I do have Michelle ready to come on here. So, Steve, we will be in touch, I'm sure, and we'll be seeing you on. What date did you say that was?
Well, the next one will be next Tuesday, the 30th.
Yes.
That'll be our
Okay,
precinct election integrity, October 8th.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Steve. We'll talk to you soon.
Tell Michelle I said hello.
Okay. Okay, great. That I always enjoy having Steve on. He,
Absolutely.
as he said, he's 84 years old. I'm a little bit younger than him, so but he has probably 10 times the energy that I do. So, hey, our next guest, because we're a couple minutes behind here. Our next guest is Michelle Swinick, and I actually met her through Steve Stern. I was invited to attend a group Zoom discussion on Wednesday afternoons called The Pod, and this is where podcasters like myself would get together and talk about a multitude of things to do with podcasting and discuss how to improve their podcast. And as she even puts it, 2.0 your podcast or 2.0 your show. While Michelle began podcasting like many of us because we had a gripe or a mission, her focus soon turned towards helping people. If you talk to Michelle for more than a few minutes, you sense the energy and the passion she puts into everything she does. Now she's dedicated to help people get healthy and helping them become prosperous as well, and still working on the podcasting issue and helping people like us improve our podcast. So without further ado, let me bring Michelle on here and we can start chatting with her. So there you are. Good morning, Michelle.
Morning, gentlemen. Who is this Fred character that I do not know?
Okay, well, Fred, let me give you a little background. Fred, you know a little bit of the background about our podcast. We had a gentleman that started the podcast with me, also named Jim M. And unfortunately, about several months ago, 6 months ago, maybe, Jim decided to leave the podcast. Well, that kind of threw me for a little loop, but Fred has been with us since almost the very beginning, 4 years ago. He was always the voice off camera.
So the producer has revealed himself. Nice.
Yeah, he was the third guy of two guys drinking coffee. So
Gotcha.
when Jim left, I convinced him to come in front of the camera. Well, actually, Jim, Fred would fill in for Jim as guest host anyway when Jim was not available. So, so Fred, this is Michelle, Fred, nice two guys drinking coffee, Patriot Pulse podcast.
So Jim, before you get going, I hear background noise. So I'm not sure if you've got a phone on or you've got something, but I can hear it through the
I don't know if yours mic is still on a little bit too, because it'll pick it up on the micro. The speakers will be picked up on the microphone. I've been hearing that a little bit too. So
yeah, I'm hearing it. It's like double talk. So it's like after I talk, it's in the background. So I'm sure your audience is hearing it too.
All
You have a
right,
phone on or something? Okay. No, well, no, I can still hear it. All right. Well, we'll keep going. It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, there is definitely a feedback that's coming through the speakers. Now you turn yourself off. I can hear it through mine. I can hear it through my earpiece. And Fred, your voice is on.
Yeah, you can hear me, right? Am
Yeah,
I
I can
okay?
hear you. Yeah. No, Jim's
Yeah, I
silent.
got all my other speakers turned off. Hopefully, there's nothing playing that I know of. Jim,
And Jim's got his speaker off.
Jim, we don't
I
hear
can
you.
hear it. Yeah, I can hear it on my end. But that's okay. Like you said, we could keep going. If he can't figure it out, he's got himself mute. I don't want to interrupt the show, but I was just trying to make it a little bit more pleasurable for the audience.
Where did he go? Oh,
He decided to take a hike. He said, "You know what? I'm out of here, guys. You can handle it." So anyway, so back to your regularly scheduled program, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm just, I'm glad that you guys are giving me an opportunity to talk to your audience this morning and kind of educate them on what's going on in the country, not to mention in regards to their health, and assure them and come in as kind of like with my cape on today to let them know that they do not have to suffer. 76.4% of Americans are suffering from a chronic disease. That's 3/4 of this audience has a chronic disease. And I'm not even going to get into the children yet. We'll wait for Jimbo to come back on. But with that being the case, you have 3/4 of the country is sick. And that's just a chronic disease. Most of them have more than one chronic disease because the average person who's 50 years old and when they hit 50, they're on 5 medications. So since you had Steve on, the America's favorite patriot on before, who is 84, who has a lot of energy, who's constantly doing, he goes over and beyond. Even if Steve's not feeling good one day, he keeps going. You'd never know it. But you have to keep in mind, how does everybody want somebody to go become a precinct commander man, show up and go to meetings, watch podcasts, get involved in their community if 76.4% of Americans have a chronic disease? They can't. Okay. Right. Like I was telling Jim, I said, so like, let's go into an example. You've got 1 in 31 children have autism. Okay. Which is mind-blowing that all of a sudden now it's a topic that actually gets to the White House, right? 1 out of 31 kids. You have 38% of teens, okay? Teenagers are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. Diabetic or pre-diabetic. Yeah. 50 years ago, there were 0, okay? 0. So you have 3/4 of the country have a chronic disease. Most people have more than one. Oh, it's even the dogs are agreeing with me. They said that's right. You people.
I've been trying to mute my mic.
Yeah, you people eat like crap. You don't supplement. You guys are all sick, and someone's trying to. No one can play with the dog. The dog wants to play fetch, and the kid's like, "Dude, I don't feel good," and the parents are like, "No, thanks." Right? So that's even the dog's left out. That's not even fair. So if you have just those initial statistics, right? So you've got a family where both parents are working because costs are out of control with everything. They've got 3 kids, right? Mom and dad have some sort of chronic disease. Dad's got anger management issues. So both parents are working. You got 1 kid with autism. You got 2 kids that have that are diabetic, okay? Diabetic as a child, right? So you have all these additional costs to just maintain their health, because keep in mind, medications don't cure anything. They just get you to the next day. Okay, that's how they're designed. So you're just you're spending all this money doing triage. Meanwhile, you're not getting any better. So now this woman comes home from work, right? Husband's been home with those 3 kids for an hour. Okay, those kids have been home for 3 hours. He's beyond angry. Can't wait to get in that garage and tinker around with whatever they do in this magical garage, because I got one too, and I don't know what's in that magical garage, but magic goes on in there. And then she comes home. He's wondering where dinner is. Kids are bouncing off the walls. The autistic kid doesn't speak, by the way. You know, most of these autistic children, they don't talk. Okay. They just scream. They don't talk. Can you imagine the strain this puts on the whole family, right? Because this is a child. You have to take care of it. And then you want her to come home and go to a precinct committee man meeting at 7:00 at night after she makes dinner for this household? It's not going to happen. I mean, because you have 76.4% of Americans with chronic disease, we're the sickest country in the world, right? The future, literally, of our health and our freedom and our nation depends on leaders who are listening to this call, who are watching the show, who are hosting shows, to step up to the plate and provide solutions, because this is an emergency. Okay. This is bigger than just a family emergency at home when you're talking about these statistics, because what happens to the children, the workforce, and the country if we don't take action now to fix this problem? Because 8 out of 10 young men, 17 to 24, aren't qualified to join the military. Okay.
Yeah.
So when those men aren't qualified to join the military, what do? They lower the standards. So now I got half-assed soldiers. Okay. That ain't going to work. I'm no fan of war, but I'm just saying, I don't need a half-assed soldier who I can outrun. It's like, you know, when you see a cop and he's big and fat and you're like, if I get in trouble, I want him running after me because there's no way he's going to catch up. Okay. Right. Let's pick and choose our battles. Right. I'm like, just make sure you commit a crime next to the fattest cop you got, because he's not going to catch you. Right. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. So you've got major problems in this country, all because people are not taking care of themselves. Mm-hmm. And you do not have to live like that anymore. I did. I had chronic pain, chronic inflammation, menopause symptoms like hot flash. I know Jimbo's got a wife. I'm not sure about Freddie. I'm sure he's good looking enough. I'm sure he's got a wife. So, you know, we get to the point where all of a sudden we've got 140 degrees going on inside, right? Well, because of these supplements, because I got to the point where I was literally rock bottom. And reason why all that happened, that I didn't do that, is because I was putting my country, go figure, because I was putting my country, and I was working on and doing the investigation for the elections here in Maricopa County, Maricorruption County, for 2.5 years. That's all I did. 7 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day. I literally drove my health, my mental well-being, and my finances strictly into the ground. Okay. I'm going to show you a picture because I want you to see the before and during, not after, because I'm not finished. The before and during pictures. And then I'm going to ask you a question, and you're not going to, there's no insulting there, because I want your honest opinion. Then I'm going to tell you the truth. So my point is because I was at the point where I could barely get out of a chair. Okay. The pain was so bad. When I'd get out of bed, I was like stepping on knives, get out of a chair, stepping on knives. Right. So this is your chronic pain, your inflammation. And I didn't go on medication because I'm like, I'm not taking medication, but I also didn't have a plan B. So I didn't think, well, if I wasn't going to go to the doctor and get diagnosed with, if I would have went to the doctor with the laundry list of symptoms that I had and pain that I was going through, he probably would have put me on 2 or 3 medications. I'm sure there was magical names of everything, but I said, I'm not doing that. Right? I'm not doing that. But again, I didn't have a plan B. So I wasn't trying to figure out I didn't figure out how to do that part yet. But that kind of just sets up to why I'm so passionate about making sure people take care of themselves and get healthy, because it's not just about them. They need to be healthy and run at their optimum performance of this great, beautiful body that God gave us, because they have to show up for the people who need them most. That woman has to be operating at optimal performance because her husband can't handle it if she's not home, and he can't handle making dinner. No offense to men. I'm just giving an example because this is a friend of mine's household. And those kids need her. So she's got to operate. But if you only help yourself, you do tremendous things to the family. But if you change the lifestyle of the whole family, magical things, amazing things happen. But then it goes forward, where then it becomes part of it. It affects the whole community. It affects all your family members. It affects extended family, friends and family. It accepts your neighbors because now you're making a change, which is more impactful. No offense to Steve, but any community meeting you can go to, because you're actually helping the household. The household needs to be fixed first. And we can actually do that. We just have to make the decision to do it because there are solutions to do it. I'm living proof of it because I'm going to show you a picture again and you're going to see the difference. But I'm glad Jim's back for his show. So Jim, I will let you, I'll let you take this show back and ask some questions. And I want to show some slides because I want to hammer this home, how important this is, that if you are not feeling good and you are not healthy and you are not literally running on your at your prime, you don't have anything.
Yeah, I
You don't have anything.
100% agree with you there because doctor put me on this crappy drug that all it did was make me hurt worse. So I quit taking it. I started eating healthier. I lost 55 pounds and I feel like a brand new man. Different than what I felt like before. So you can change your habit. You don't have to go to drugs.
Yeah.
No. Again, drugs are only there to get you through the next day. They're not there to fix you. They're not there to heal you. They're not designed to do that. They're just to mask the issue so you can go ahead and go to get through the day. But then most of them require another drug, which is why people are on 5 because there's a side effect.
Exactly.
And then it causes something else. But then when you're poisoning your body with all these toxins, which is what I had toxins in there. You have to get these toxins out of your body. And when you do that, it's amazing what happens when you actually put in the proper nutrients because you can't get it from the food. I'm going to show you some slides. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Well, no, I was going to say my wife has worked in the medical profession for about 33 years. She's retired now, but she was an office manager first for a PCP and then next for a surgeon. And I'll always remember the PCP she worked for. We had a discussion one day about, prescribing medications, which, I still think the modern medical profession are just legal drug pushers. But he did say one thing which made a lot of sense. He said, the reason we do that is because I basically presented them with my argument. And he says, the reason we do that are people are lazy. People are, in other words, if they come to a doctor with a symptom or a complaint, they don't want to hear, well, you're 30 pounds overweight, your eating habits suck, you're drinking too much alcohol. In other words, they could say, stop this, and people don't want to hear that. They want to say, doc, give me a pill. All right. It's easier for me to take a pill than it is for me to change my lifestyle. So, on one hand, the doctors and the medical profession, because of big pharma and their influence, are pushing all these drugs. But on the other hand, we have as much responsibility, we as individuals, because we can't be lazy. We have to take responsibility for our own health. Yes. It's our health. Correct. It's not the doctor's health. It's not my wife's health. It's my health. I have to take responsibility for it.
Yeah, it's a good point. No, you're spot on because personal responsibility is a huge part of it, right? Huge part of it. But in my situation, I didn't want to go do the drugs, but I didn't know there was another option. Okay, that's the other part. We don't necessarily know. I didn't know that these products were as powerful. Excuse me. There's always a chirp. No matter, these phones, unless there's a magical thing I don't know about. I turn the ringer up, but the alarm still goes on. So I don't understand. Like, I'm not quite sure how that works. It happens almost every podcast, right? So I'm like, I turn it off, but yet it still chirps. So I don't know. So I stopped trying to figure the technology out. But that's the thing is my job is educating people and showing that there are solutions so you don't have to. So the doctor, part of the doctor's deal is he needs to be pushing the drugs, like you said, right? Yeah. So if people didn't have the little pill as a solution and they didn't want to live the life they were living, they would actually make the accommodations. But they know because, yes, they're lazy, but they also want convenience, okay? Because we live in a world of convenience, which is fine. Well, but then don't complain. But some people want that. They refuse to take care of themselves. They'd rather They'd rather go, you know what? I ate that huge, big submarine hoagie meatball sandwich and my stomach's bothering me. But I just saw this commercial that if I take this pill, I could still eat the big meatball submarine sandwich, that I could still eat that. So that's just a priority, right? So if that's your priority, great. But then you don't get to complain to other people because no one wants to hear it. You don't get to complain that you don't feel good because you're doing it to yourself. Okay. So then that's fine. You want to live that way. That's great. Nobody else wants to hear how your health is not doing well because you're not taking care of yourself. So you don't get the right to complain anymore if you don't do anything because no one wants to hear it. But if you want to take care of yourself, you just trying to figure out how to do it, and you've gone into the store, you've gone into Whole Foods, you've gone into a health food, the GNC, you've gone online, you've watched shows, and you're like, okay, well, I'm supposed to take 1 or 2 of these vitamins. That's not going to get you anywhere, right? Because we've all that was for my situation. I said to my friend, because I'm smarter than my friend who actually has been doing this for years, who makes $1 million a year, and is a physician's assistant. I'm much smarter than her, apparently. So she said, you need to go with all 7 products because that's how you start for 30 days. And I said, and I'm actually not, I'll just do 2 or I'll just do 3. So Michelle, I'm telling you, here's my background. I've been doing this for 17 years. If you start with all 7, because you need to drain all of these toxins, you've got to detox your body, you've got to put the good stuff in, and you need to do all that first for 30 days. It's a 30-day servicing. Then you'll end up doing 2 to 3 products for maintenance per month. So I said, no, I'm smarter than you. I figure I'll just do 3. So I did 3. I didn't get enough of an impact. I was like, well, I'm not seeing as much as I should. She goes, could you try put them all together because it comes as a set? It's kind of like you have to go through A through B, A, B, C, D, and E. You can't just pick and choose. Okay. It's designed this way for a system because everything works in coordination with the other, because you can do this, but if you don't have this, you can't get to here. So I said, okay, fine. You are smarter than me. I listened. And now I am a walking testimony of a success story on how to actually turn your health around by literally just using the right supplements, because you're going to see a slide here. Why don't you pull up some of these slides, Jim? Because I want people to see what I'm talking about, because I didn't know any of this in January and February and March of last year when I first started on these products. I knew nothing. Before I had gained the 38 pounds doing this ridiculous investigating work for 3.5 years that nobody cares about. That no, they don't, because we showed them that the crimes that are still being committed, that were committed in 2020, 2022, and 2024, nothing's changed. Okay, like Trump won because they let him win. That's how it works. Okay, that's how that works. We voted for him in 2020. He won in 2020. The results don't match the votes, but we're not going to get into election stuff today, because I could go on for hours and hours and hours. But at the end of the day, my point was, when I put on all this weight, it wasn't, and even before that, I was thin. So I was like, oh, I'm healthy. I'm good. I'm eat good. You can't pull up slide number 4. You can't get the nutrients you want from food, regardless of how much you eat. And you can't get it now from organic because they've taken that over. So you think, oh, I eat organic. Yeah. Well, they put this glaze on it from Bill Gates and all the rest of their clan, and you don't know what's in it. You could have mRNA and all this food you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So you can't get you can't get what you need from the food if you're eating food, even if you're skinny. Most of the people that are skinny are actually unhealthy. Because I was 130 pounds and I looked great because I was thin, but I was the unhealthiest that I had been in my whole life. But I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Until I started
Michelle,
realizing, you can't pull it
I
up.
got to apologize. I'm looking through. I didn't see any slides that you sent me. I was looking back through email.
I put the video. I sent the video and the slides, but I can, if you want to let me share the screen, I can pull them up.
Yeah. You should be able to share the screen. I don't think I have to allow any settings here for you to do that. See if you have that ability.
I just want to make sure I could share the audio. Hang on.
Because I do have,
To
by
share
the way,
audio, share tab or screen instead.
Yeah, I pulled up your Podcaster Podium Substack, and it has a lot of what you're talking about on there.
Yeah. So I'm going to play you a video because if it says if I want to share my audio, I have to share my screen. Okay. So I'm going to do this.
Okay.
All right, hang on.
I added
There
it
you go.
to stage.
So I'm sharing the screen, what does it do?
Well,
it
I
puts
just
my
added
screen on
it.
the other thing. Yeah, I know, but I need this.
Yeah, you just do what you do on your side, and it should show up on mine.
Yeah. So I want to play you the video from RFK Jr. So RFK Jr. came out with statistics. I'm going to have to, it's not letting me.
Well, here, let me do this. Let me do this. Because I can share my screen, and
I see.
Oh, there's a video file. Let me do the, yeah. So pull that up. And then I want to
Okay.
show, I got the video file. Okay, here we go. Yeah, pull that up on the screen while I talk to set this up. So look at that, everybody.
all right,
That
hang on.
is, because I'm going to pull up this video from RFK because I think it's important to start that because I want these people to hear
That's
these
kinda quick.
statistics, not from me, but from RFK. So,
There you go.
So
Oh,
is
yeah.
this the video you're talking about here?
If they can hear that, they're not going to be able to hear it.
Now, the sickest country in the world. We announced this week, CDC announced my biggest preoccupation. My biggest preoccupation was the chronic disease epidemic. And
Can you
we
even hear
announced
that?
the sickest country
Yeah.
in the world. We announced this week, CDC announced that 76.4% of Americans are suffering a chronic disease. And my uncle was president, it was 11%. In 1950, it was 3%. And we're the sickest country in the world. We have the highest chronic disease burden of any country in the world. And yet we spend more on healthcare than any country in the world. We spend 2 to 3 times what European nations spend. We spend nearly as much in our country for healthcare as all the other nations in the world combined. And yet we have the worst health outcomes. We've lost 6 years in lifespan and longevity to Europe in the past 20 years. Our kids, our girls are hitting puberty 6 years earlier than historically. Our young men have sperm counts that are half of what they ought to be. They have testosterone levels that are half of what they ought to be. We have diabetes that is now endemic, not just epidemic, it's everywhere. 38% of teens are now diabetic or pre-diabetic. When I was a kid, it was 0. And the autism rates, which the president is particularly concerned with, have dropped from less than 1 in 10,000 in 1970 to 1 in every 31 kids today. So this is a national security issue. 8 out of 10 of our children, of our young men, cannot qualify for military service. It's national security. It's our economy that's wrecking. This is an existential crisis for our country. My biggest preoccupation was the chronic disease epidemic.
Yeah. So that's good. Now it's on the
I'm
loop.
gonna
So-
stop that there because we're kind of running out of time, and we'd end up spending the whole.
Yeah, no. So that was the whole video. So it's only a minute and a half. So I just want you to reiterate the statistics again, because this is hitting home for most people. Again, this is a national security issue. This is a national emergency. This is your family. This is your friends. This is probably you that's listening, audience. And you cannot show up for anybody in your life. You can't even be great at anything if you're sick, tired, toxic, broke, and dependent. And look at these statistics. He said them again in there. And there's your pharma in the corner. I love that graphic. AI actually made that. It did a good job. But here's the thing. You have to get your arms around this, that we're being poisoned by our food, our water, our air, our medication, and our media. And again, you can't be great at anything if you're sick, tired, toxic, broken, dependent. So from the moment you get up, it's happening while you sleep, but I'm trying to just reiterate and get people to understand it's happening in your waking hour. Before you even get to work, before you have in your first argument with your spouse, before you even get into a situation where you're thinking you're being attacked, we're under attack by just the fact that we got out of bed in the morning, because you're being bombarded with poison in your food, your water, air, medication, and media. Just the plastics alone. Here's the statue I want to show you about the nutrition. It's just the plastics alone. They're doing studies. They've already done these studies that just the water bottles that we're drinking, just the water bottles alone, after 1 week of drinking water bottles, they're finding at least a credit card size amount of plastic in people's brains. Okay. And what's that doing? That's helping. It's dealing with your blood vessels and narrowing the blood vessels. And you're having this poison in you. 90% of people don't eat enough vegetables daily. 90% you don't get enough vegetables. And even if you did eat enough vegetables, look at this problemo. Because if 85% of the people don't consume enough of the FDA, and the FDA is on the low end of the recommended daily intake of the vitamins and minerals, in 1960, okay, this is back before they really contaminated the food and the air and the water, right? 1 orange, 1 cup of spinach, 1 ear of corn, and 1 cup of wheat. In 2010, that's not including all the stuff they do to us now. This is from 15 years ago. This is the last time that I found statistics that we could use. What they had that your grandparents and parents got to eat, which is why they looked different in 1960 than we did now, and why there was only 0 kids with diabetes, right? And you didn't have the chronic disease. Chronic disease in 1960 was at 11% of the population. 1950 was at 3%, but to keep statistics the same, 11%. In 2010, those same things, 1 of each, in order to get the same nutrient value, in 2010, 8 oranges, 80 cups of spinach, 20, I think that's 19 ears of corn and 2 cups of wheat. And look at the difference in the calories. You can't consume that kind of food, and you shouldn't be. And part of it's, look what they're doing. This is what they do to your food when we put it in our mouth. Some of the stuff you're going to have to eat anyway. You can't get around it, but you're not getting the nutrients. So your body can't get what it needs. Look at what we do to these poor little kids. Not to mention we're jabbing them with these vaccines, 60 to 90 some vaccines. 50% of the kids don't get enough vitamin D and vitamin E. 25 don't get enough calcium, magnesium, and vitamin A. And you wonder why they're diabetic. You wonder why they have chronic disease. You wonder why they're autistic. They can't. I don't even know how these kids are alive. Okay. Supplements, unless they actually work, all you're doing is just spending a lot of money, because all of these are real these are real supplements that I've been taking on and off for years, and none of them work. Okay. I used to promote these on my show because I was like, yeah, I feel a little bit better. Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to help other people. They don't work. Okay. Here's the picture. Look at the difference. Okay. I want you to look at the difference. The me on the left is June of 2025. Me on the right is 2024. I looked worse in December, but I couldn't find a picture without me wearing a hat. I want you to look at the picture. Okay. Look at that picture. What's the difference in weight? What's the difference in weight? I want you to be honest. What do you think the difference in weight is between the 2 pictures? This is me. There's no AI. There's no AI, by the way. No touch up, no nothing. That's just true pictures.
Well, obviously your face looks a lot rounder in 2024, which would indicate maybe a 10 or 15 pound weight difference.
Four. This is what happens on the right. Completely no nutrition, completely full of toxins, just not taking care of yourself and not giving your body the nutrients that it needs to literally to heal itself and to get itself back in balance. On the left, the difference in weight, because I couldn't really exercise like normal people do because the pain was so bad. The pain is now all gone. Even plantar fasciitis that everybody told me you can't get rid of. Oh, that is gone, people. I dance out of bed in the morning. I don't step on knives no more. The difference in weight is 4 pounds. Okay. Because and this is the first time in my whole life that I did any type of weight adjustment, dieting, because normally diets, I just starve myself because that's always worked in the past. This is the first time I've ever done it by actually flooding my body with plant-based nutrition, supplements that are needed. Yeah, I kept an eye on my food, but I didn't change it that much. And I didn't put in the exercise at the level I should because I couldn't, because it was still painful and it wasn't enjoyable. So then you just don't want to do it as much. But I want people to see this is what happens when you give your body the nutrients that it needs. That's the difference. That's the only thing different in these 2 pictures is the supplements. It's the first time in my life that I ever did it this way. So you don't have to suffer. You can get yourself off medications. You can actually be as you said in the beginning, you 2.0 yourself so you can optimize your performance, so you can operate at as how God designed your body to be, and you don't have to be in pain. And most importantly, you can finally show up for the real you that maybe you were in the past for the people who need you most. But you need to have the right products, and you need to be in a regimen, and you need to do it, and you need to want to do it. But I'm telling you, there's a solution. And that's what these products are behind me. They're called Live Pure. They're absolutely amazing. They're
You know,
absolutely
a picture would have made a bigger impact if you'd have put our current health advisor and our last year and the last health
No,
advisor. That would be a better impact. That would have made a bigger impact.
I don't want to see that guy. I don't want to see that guy in a dress with his mental disorder trying to tell me that he's a lady when he has a mental disorder and should be in one of those institutions. But yeah, so
Let me ask you.
That's my story, guys, and I'm going to shout it from the rooftops. And I'm here for your solutions to get you on the right track, because I don't want anyone to live through what I had to live through. And I know that there's at least 76.4% of the country is, and I don't want you to have to live that way.
Right.
Michelle, if somebody wants more information, wants to talk to you about this in more detail, how do they reach? I see on there you got the SaveMyFreedom.us.
Yeah, I want you to go to SaveMyFreedom.us, and the pin post has all of the information there. I'm going to do another one with the 76.4% today. You're going to see that up. So you're going to subscribe so that you can get on our list. All of the information's in the Substack post. The pinned one is going to have even more information, detailed, all these statistics, the video. But I want you to call me, because if you're just going to click the button and then get the products, it's not going to be as effective unless I want to explain it to you. I'm going to send you videos on how to take them properly or what they mean. That's if you want it. If you want to do solo, be my guest. But the whole point of making effective, which worked for me, call me. It's 601-301-3503, 601-301-3503, and they say myfreedom.us. My email's in there too. So you can always email me. All that information's in all the posts, and it's on the Substack, and you can always find it even on all the social media platforms. But unless you're doing this together, meaning with me, it's not going to be as effective, right? I'm your coach in this. That's how I've decided to actually put extra into this, because that's what was done for me. So I had a little bit of accountability, like once a week. How's it going? Are you taking what you're supposed to be taking? Yeah. Or do we need to make any adjustments? Maybe we need to do 2 of something instead of 1 of something, or double up or pull back, so we can make those adjustments based on your performance and how things are going. But it's also nice to have that checks and balance, because I had that for me, because my friend stepped in a little bit extra, put a little extra into me. And I want to make sure that I'm doing that for other people so that it works, because once it works, your life changes. I'm still waiting. Okay. And I'll give you a quick little story. It's very, very hot here in Arizona. Okay. It's like 140 inside my body was, and now it's 140 degrees outside. So I'm walking. So in January, I start walking, and then it gets hot, and I'm still walking. It's 6:30 in the morning. I'm walking. So August is it gets humid here, and it's still hot. So I took a couple of weeks off, and I'm still having a little bit of pain in my feet, right? So all the rest, the sharpshooting pain, like somebody was jamming a screwdriver in my muscles in the middle of the night, that was all gone pretty much right away when I started on the products. But I was still having that plantar fasciitis. It was getting better, but it was still there. So I took a couple of weeks off from walking, and last Sunday I went for the first time in about 3 weeks. And I kept looking around like somebody was a candid camera. I'm looking around like, okay, where's the guy going to jump out of the bush and say, ha ha, oh, we just did this. So like, you have no pain right now, but it's a trick. You're going to have pain when you get around the corner. So I kept walking and walking, and I'm like, I'm not used to not having pain when I'm walking. I'm not used to being on this walk for the past 9 months where I had absolutely no pain, where I got to the stop sign. I'm like, I'm already here. And I'm like, wait, and I went around the second part of it, and I'm like, I'm already here. And I went, this is the first time in 9 months that I started doing this walk, that it was fast, that it was enjoyable, that I didn't have that little bit extra hip pain that was still there, that the foot pain, it's all gone. Where I'm still, when I get get up from my chair at my desk, and I even go get a refill of water, and I throw in some hydrator, some energy focus drink, our powder stuff that's amazing. I'm like, it feels weird. It feels weird to walk in my own home and not have pain, Now that is, it's because we get used to what we're used to, right? As human beings. So
Sure.
we get used to and conditioned that this is just, oh, it's just the way it's going to be. So I'm getting used to now of not having pain because I was so used to for a year. So this is the first September in a year that I haven't had pain. And I'm still, every time I get up, I'm like, okay, I can get up, no problem. I'm picking up the weight and I'm like, okay, that doesn't hurt. So it is just, I'm just beyond, it's just, to me, it's, that was the real tipping point for me, that I said, I really got to get out there and I've got to tell people about this, because I was so used to being in pain that I'm now still in shock that I'm not in pain. And that's not how our brains are supposed to be. So please call me, get on these products. I will guide you through it. 601-301-3503, savemyfreedom.us, savemyfreedom.us. It will literally change your life. It'll change your family's life. And then you can go to your precinct committee man meeting. You could go to your HOA meeting. You could go to your board meetings. You can actually go to school board meetings. You can actually go to your kids' games. You can go, if you want to go to the gym, you can go to the gym. You can exercise. You can be a better parent, a better friend, a better employee. You could be, again, you cannot be great at anything if you're sick, tired, toxic, broke, and dependent, and you don't have to live that way.
I agree.
You just gotta want to make the decision. That's pretty much it, because you've got a national emergency. If you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your friends,
Do it for your country.
do it for your country. Because, and even if your life is awesome and everything's going great and you feel phenomenal and you eat healthy and you've got all the nutrients coming in, you know somebody who isn't. So tell them about this. Tell them about this, because again, you've got 76.4% of Americans are suffering from a chronic disease, which is going to affect all of our lives in a very short period of time, because that's the country that's going to be either fighting for you or in charge of things or working for you or working with you or your boss or whomever. It is a national. It's beyond a security issue. It's a national emergency.
I agree. Well, Michelle, I want to be respectful.
Yeah, we're over.
Here is 10:13. One thing we always do though is, and we didn't have a chance to do this over before Steve left us, but we do pray over our guests and and thank them for coming on and sharing their story with us. So, and Fred is normally the one that I call on to do this. He's our prayer in chief. So, Fred, would you, when you pray us out of here, would you hold up Michelle and Steve in prayer as we close out? Go ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lord, for this day. And I thank you, Lord, for the words that we heard from both guests that have come on today. I ask, Lord, you keep your hand on them, keep them safe, Lord. And I pray that you use all of us, Lord, like as an instrument of light, not hate, an instrument of love and not hate, an instrument of peace and not doubt, and an instrument of hope and not despair, Lord. As you just continue to give us wisdom and give us understanding. And I always pray, Lord, that you continue to bring the darkness to the light. This world loves to keep us in the darkness, Lord. I just ask that you continue to bring the darkness to the light, Lord, that we would see the truth of what they're trying to do to us, Lord. And I ask you bless each and every one that's listening, that they would use this information to better their lives, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Michelle, thank you very much for coming on today. I appreciate it. And again, everybody that saw the email there, I'll put that up on our sites as well, that your phone number and email if people want to reach out to you. Just as a personal note, Michelle, I probably will not be on the pod today with you because I do have, I'm sorry, I actually have to work for a living once in a while.
That takes priority. I tell everybody, the only reason you're not supposed to be on this call is if you got to be at your job or somebody is going to give you a check. So you go, and you go make some money, honey.
And that's okay. Where so, hey, thanks again. I'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Right. Bye-bye. Okay, Fred, wonderful show today. It's kind of like almost like speed dating there. We had Steve on, but that's all right. It makes the podcast go fast, and it did go again another 15 minutes over, which is typical for us. But a lot of stuff to share. Hey, I appreciate everybody getting on. I sorry I didn't get a chance to do shout outs today, but As you see, we had a lot of talking going on, but we
Mhm.
appreciate everybody that took the time out of their day to join us. And if you're catching this later on recorded, we appreciate you as well. But for now, we will say goodbye. I hope it's nice wherever you are in the world. In Bradford, Pennsylvania, it's pretty foggy today. But wherever you are, we hope you have a wonderful day and just be blessed
And be a blessing to others.
and have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week, everybody.